Are you an open-minded juror? Let me ask it that way.
I'm very open-minded and fair-minded. You'll not meet a person who is more fair than I am. I really do believe that justice should be colorblind, gender-blind, you name it. I think justice should. But, you know, one of our traditions about justice, about finding justice, is a defense should be able to present their witnesses. So if you can't call Hunter Biden and you can't call the whistleblower, that's sort of a sham. That's not even really a trial. So I am fair-minded, but the trial has to be fair.
My head is only now decombusting from the exchange you had with Rand Paul. I've spent 11 years in public service defending the press. And when Senator Rand Paul comes on and says that what Donald Trump did, and the transcript is there, extorting a foreign government for his personal political gain, and that's exactly the same thing as Joe Biden, exactly the same thing as what he said, as Joe Biden saying that this prosecutor should be released. When Joe Biden is acting in consistency with American foreign policy, and back then we had a whole list of things that had to be done, and this was American foreign policy, it was European Union policy, it was IMF policy, that this prosecutor needed to go. When Rand Paul says that that's exactly the same thing as the President of the United States saying you need to find dirt on my political opponent, and with all due respect, Chuck, when you say, well, do two wrongs make a right, let's be very clear. The President of the United States demanding, extorting a vulnerable country to do his political bidding, to go after his opponent, has nothing to do with Joe Biden executing the foreign policy of the United States or Hillary Clinton, who is a private citizen, doing opposition research on her presidential opponent. Those are radically different things, and what the president did is wrong and impeachable.
If you're going to have Republican Senator Rand Paul on your show, knowing full well that he'll be peddling overtly false Republican talking points to defend Trump, then at the very least, you have to be prepared to push back. So when Chuck Todd failed to do just that, Democratic lawmaker Jim Hines was more than ready to call him out for it. And it came after Rand Paul suggested that because Democrats aren't succumbing to Republicans' absurd demands of validating their conspiracy theories and calling Hunter Biden to testify in a trial that the GOP is hell-bent on turning into a circus, that it's somehow not fair. To be clear, for the umpteenth time, Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. This entire sham excuse has been investigated and adjudicated. Joe Biden wasn't pushing for the Ukrainian prosecutor's ouster to protect his son. He was joining the Obama administration and the European Union and international bodies like the IMF and anti-corruption advocates in Ukraine and around the world to oust a prosecutor for not pursuing corruption. Literally the only entity on the entire planet that doesn't accept this reality is our very own Republican Party. But even if we did grant the GOP that Hunter Biden did do something wrong, he didn't, but let's pretend he did. These things still wouldn't be the same. It still wouldn't be justification for Trump to extort a foreign country into doing his political bidding. It still wouldn't be justification for him to use taxpayer-funded, legally allocated military aid to a country that desperately needs to defend itself from Russia and hold that money hostage so Trump can have some talking points heading into the next general election. It still wouldn't be justification for Trump to hide the summary of that call in a secure server. It still wouldn't be justification to block officials from responding to congressional subpoenas and testifying to Congress. So I get why the GOP would love to pretend that these two things are the same, but there is zero equivalency between the two. But beyond that, it is ridiculous to even humor this defense of looking into Biden, because who in their right mind believes that while Trump is supposedly such a champion against corruption, that the only instance of corruption he could find in the entire world just so happened to be in Ukraine and concerned his top political rival for the next presidential election. That's it. We've never seen Trump involve himself in one single other instance of, quote, rooting out corruption that he supposedly cares so much about. And yet we're supposed to believe that it's just a coincidence that the one and only time he decides to take up arms against it, it's in Eastern Europe and directly involves his own opponent in the next election. I mean, this isn't even subtle. There is no one on earth who will buy into the idea that this is legitimate and not just Trump serving his own personal interests. And so when Rand Paul goes on national television and repeats these BS talking points that are designed solely for the purpose of defending one man's glaringly obvious criminality, he's not only contracting his powers as a member of a co-equal branch of government to the president, but his dignity too. But let's be honest, this was never really about Hunter Biden or corruption. These are just ridiculous excuses cooked up by the GOP to divert attention away from Trump's blatant criminality. Just like Republicans have pretended that the whistleblower complaint is is unreliable because the whistleblower is supposedly a partisan, or that secondhand information isn't allowed in complaints, or that Adam Schiff counseled the whistleblower, or that impeachment is unconstitutional, or that Republicans were shut out of the witness interviews. All of it completely false, and yet that hasn't stopped the right from repeating these excuses anyway, because they'd rather lie to Americans' faces than dare to abandon Donald Trump. The fact is that Republicans have already showed their hand multiple times over. By virtue of throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Democrats, they've shown that it's not about some genuine defense, it's about any defense. It's about blindly pushing back in their desperation to control the narrative. It's about muddying the waters and distracting and obfuscating to keep your attention away from the only thing that matters amid all of this, which is that the President of the United States committed an impeachable offense by leveraging American military aid on the announcement of an investigation into his top political opponent. And with impeachment imminent with or without Republican support, those on the right should think long and hard about what they want their legacy to be, because history won't look kindly upon those who've opted to sell their souls to protect Donald Trump.